Happy Sunday, everyone. Welcome back into Sunday Sessions. I am your host, Darante LaMar, and I'm the lead community developer of Bridge City Global. Every weekend, I host these conversations as a touch point for connection, inspiration, and growth. I'm on an audacious mission to launch communities everywhere that gather weekly for real conversations just like these, free from superstition, free from coercion, and grounded in what makes us more human together. I show up every Sunday for three primary reasons: to host conversations that help, heal, or hit on what really matters to the people in our community, to create spaces where people can gather, connect, and support each other, and most importantly, to spark a fire in somebody who feels the call to speak, organize, and lead with purpose. My goal is to excite as many people as I can about the idea of being a better way to connect by building community beyond superstition. And while today's conversation might feel like church at some times because your boy be preaching, let me be clear. There are absolutely no appeals to deities, no demands for doctrines, and no request to believe what cannot be demonstrated. Instead, you'll be encouraged to learn, laugh, and love freely while giving others the grace and the space to do the same. That's the world-changing work that we're building together. And if this is your first time with us, welcome in. Let us know you're here and where you're watching from so our community can show you some love in the chat. All right, let's get ready for today's session. A moment in every journey when you stop moving blindly and start seeing things as they truly are. The shift from reaction to observation, from impulse to clarity, from being caught in the storm to watching from above. The question is, who are you in this vast layered reality? We're shaped by biology, by our past, by the perspectives of others. But at some point, we must ask, are we truly seeing the full picture? At some point, we must ask, are we trapped in an obstructed view? Are we making choices based on clear perspectives or clouded perspectives? Or are we letting old narratives distort what's actually happening now? Are we watching with awareness or just reacting to the noise of the world? Today's conversation is about becoming the watcher. It's about stepping outside of conditioned responses, emotional impulses, and inherited assumptions so that we can see the world and ourselves as clearly as possible. Uatu, also known as the Watcher, is a character from the Marvel Comics universe who belongs to an ancient cosmic race tasked with observing the universe without interfering. His role is to witness and document the major events of the reality, ensuring that knowledge is preserved. However, Uatu is unique among the Watchers because he struggles with his oath of non-interference, often questioning whether simply watching is enough. His story is one of perspective, judgment, and the burden of seeing all possibilities while being limited in action. Now, imagine knowing everything, every possible outcome, every decision before it's made, every consequence before it unfolds. Imagine seeing the full picture while everyone else moves blindly through their limited perspectives. That is the story of Uatu, the Watcher. A being who stands outside of time and history, witnessing everything but sworn never to interfere. He sees the rise and collapse of civilizations, the choices that shape destinies, the mistakes that could have been avoided, but his role is to watch, not act. But here's the problem. The more you see, the harder it is to remain neutral. And I feel like we're preaching already this weekend. Uatu wrestles with the burden of observation because the clearer you see reality, the more you wonder, should you intervene? Should you change what's unfolding? And in many ways, we're all watchers in our own lives. We stand at the intersection of past experiences, societal narratives, and internal struggles, observing ourselves and the world around us. But the question is, are we truly seeing clearly? Or are we trapped in the limited views handed to us? Are we watching with clarity or just reacting blindly? Are we gaining insight or just reinforcing old illusions? Are we truly the watcher in our own lives or are we lost in the story? Today's conversation is about becoming the watcher. It's about stepping outside of the noise, seeing the full picture, and making sure our judgment isn't clouded by limited vision. So let's get into it. If you're ready for this conversation, will you go ahead and drop an eye emoji in the chat and let somebody know that today you're seeing the world with full clarity? Go ahead and drop them eye emojis. Eyes wide open. I am the watcher. Today, we are talking about being the watcher in our own lives as we close out this conversation that we've been having about through the looking glass and understanding, you know, as a person who's lived with glasses since I think when I was about in the 4th grade is when I got my glasses. I've had them for a very long time now. You know, they are much as part of me as anything else. Yes, I see those eyes. I see y'all. Why you over there looking at me? Why my girl standing here? I see those eyes. I see those eyes. But we're closing this conversation down, closing this conversation out today as we've talked about the different perspectives, the different things that can be in your eye, if you will. I hate to pull this from back in the days when I was a preacher, you know, back in the days when I was just a little kid, you know what I'm saying? But back in the days when I was a preacher, there was this thing that people would talk about, and they'd say stuff like, you know, be careful before you try to take the speck out of your brother's eye, you know, because if you haven't dealt with the plank in your own eye type of thing. And I remember one time trying to preach on that, and it actually kind of got good, because what I realized is that a lot of times the reason you're seeing specks in everybody else's eye, the specks that you're seeing in everybody else's life, is because your eyes are so filled with wood. You got so many specks that you got a whole damn log in your eye. So everywhere you look, everybody just looks speckled. But no, this is the reality, that the reality is that how we view others, how we view the world around us, and even how we view ourselves is often shaped by both internal and external factors. So some of these things that we've talked about has been biological and evolutionary factors and how these impact self-perception. So watch this. Our human instincts, our physical traits, and survival mechanisms influence how we see ourselves and how we navigate reality, right? So our brains and bodies are wired for survival, not necessarily truth. Okay, now see, that's something you have to keep with you in your back pocket at all times, that our brains and bodies are wired for survival, not necessarily truth. Let me speak to somebody out there. Let me talk to some brother who, anytime you're the lady you're associated with or the partner you're associated with is out and somebody else says something to them, says something like, oh man, you're cute, you look nice, oh, you look beautiful today, or something like that, and all of a sudden all of those chemical reactions start running through your body, that biology starts happening, you start feeling yourself feeling all of these emotions like jealousy, maybe you start feeling a little rage. I need you to pull that out of your back pocket and remember that our brains and our bodies are wired for survival, not necessarily truth. And I want to take that to another level. If y'all don't mind rolling with your boy for a minute, I'm kind of off script here, but not only are our brains and bodies not wired for, are not necessarily wired for truth, oh man, they're not necessarily wired for success either, you know. Oh, okay, this is good. So listen, our brains are wired for survival, which means they prioritize fear, risk avoidance, and pattern recognition. You know what I'm saying? And that's where my mind is good at them pattern recognitions. But what happens when these survival instincts when these survival instincts that shape our worldview, what happens when they grow beyond their usefulness? So for an example, think of how fear-based thinking and decision-making, overestimating threats, or sticking to familiar patterns because the brain favors what feels safe may often keep you trapped in struggles or cycles of struggles, if you will. And so a question or a challenge, somebody shout challenge in the chat. I'm just going to make it feel like we in church. Somebody shout challenge in the chat. Challenge, how can we shift from reactive survival mode? We've talked about triggers throughout this entire series. We're going to have to do a whole session on triggers, but we talked about how triggers can oftentimes be a flag that this may be something that I'm not processing. So the question is, how can we shift from reactive survival mode to intentional conscious decision making? And so there are some questions that we can start asking ourselves. One of those questions is, are the things that I'm doing to survive actually helping me survive? Damn, I wish that was on the screens, man. We're in a different studio, so I don't have it like I used to have it. So, but we're going to get that stuff in here. I love it. Challenge, man. Challenge. That's the question you begin to ask, okay? Because listen, I was at an event one time. This is back when I was still a pastor. This had to be around 2007. The event was called Leading in Tough Times. It was in Lithonia, Georgia, at one of my mentors' church at the time. That was Bishop Eddie L. Long, and Mark Sharona out of Orlando, Florida, was talking for a moment, and he began to share this story. And at the end of this story, he said something that absolutely wrecked me, broke me down. One of my best friends was sitting at the table with me, and he had to lean over to me and be like, bruh, you all right? Because I was crying so profusely. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that word right, but we're going to roll with it. But I was crying so much because this dude said something that caught me. He said, none of us escape childhood without scars. Oh my damn. He says, none of us escape childhood without scars. Now, I get it. This is an absolute statement, so it may not be true for everybody, but it was true enough for me to evoke such a powerful response for me that I couldn't keep myself from crying right there, from bawling, because I was like, damn, I've been scarred up. I've been hurt so much in life. I've been tossed to and fro. I've been neglected. I've been abandoned. I've been dispersed. I've been considered disposable. And what I would like to remind people of is that even though you've gotten beyond it, many times you still wear the scars. You know what I'm saying? You've gotten past it, but many times you still feel the pain. And many times that's where those trigger responses come from. It's because survival mode. It's after all of the shit that I've had to survive. You expect me just to sit here and not be triggered? Yes, beloved, I do. I expect you to be able to use the stuff you survived to make you better, not to make you bitter. Damn, this sounds too much like church. I'm sorry. This is what happens when y'all get me up here by myself. I just start flowing, but it is what it is. So the questions you got to begin asking yourself is, are the things that I am doing to survive actually helping me survive? Is this helping me? Now, no, I get how it was necessary for me then. I get how I had to do this. I had to develop this way. I had to get this shell. I had to start getting blunt with people. I had to start getting clear. I think y'all have learned about me by now. I am assertive as a motherfucker because I've learned that I've had to become these things, but every step of the way, watch this, because I am an evolutionary being having an evolutionary experience. Damn, that's good. Every step of the way, I have to be asking myself, is the stuff that I was using to survive yesterday helping me to survive today? This is why I don't like the gurus out there who are like, just do this and the rest of your life is gonna be okay. Nah, bro, you gotta engage this thing every day. On this side of critical thinking, you gotta wake up every day, because at any moment, what you knew to be true yesterday could be the biggest lie in the world today. So you gotta always stay on point. Somebody stand on your square. This is good. So are the things that I'm doing to survive? That's such a profound question. Are the things that I'm doing to survive actually helping me to help me survive? And here's the tricky part. How do I measure that? How do I measure that? I got a book. I have not published it yet. It's done. I just haven't edited it yet. It's done, but it's called Making the Jump. And it's a book where I kind of walk through some things that my wife and I had to do to pull ourselves from one place to get to another place in our lives. And one of the stories that I talk about in this book is a moment that I got to where a mentor one time, now to be honest, he was being a jackass, but I still pulled a lesson from the point, a point from the lesson, I guess. But he asked me one time, because he knew that I was struggling, and he said, you know, if I could write you a check right now that would take care of you for the rest of the year, how much would it be? And I realized after that conversation, I had no clue. I think I've shared before that I had little ideas like I like to make $500 a week and just have my rent taken care of and I'd be good. You know what I'm saying? But I had never actually thought about, watch this, I hope you can handle this. I hope you can handle this. I had never thought about the math of living in a capitalistic society. I never thought about it. Watch this. I had lived the majority of my life by a pathology of miracles, not mathematics, And so in this book, I talk through how I had to readjust how I was looking at my life. And so here's the question. Okay, if how do I measure what survival is for me? Because this is something that I've realized, and I hope this helps somebody. Something that I've realized is survival means something different for everybody. And sometimes survival in this stage of my life may mean something completely different than survival in this stage of my life, which is, again, why I take you back to the point that if we're going to be on the side of critical thinking, there are no shortcuts. Every day you kind of got to re-engage where you are, because it's how is it working and how do I measure that? And watch this. You can't use somebody else's ruler to measure what you want out of life. Damn, that's good. You cannot use somebody else's ruler to measure what you want out of life. You have to find what that means for you. The second question is, are the things that I do to protect myself and feel safe actually helping make me feel safe? Are the things that I do to protect myself and feel safe actually helping me feel safe? And how do I measure that? You know what I'm saying? How do I measure that? This is good stuff. All right. So let's roll on. Let's talk about the role of memory and experience. So our experiences shape how we interpret the world, but memory is unreliable. Our brains reconstruct memories, blending past events with current perspectives. Memory isn't perfect, it's reconstructed, it's altered and selective. This means we're often responding to our interpretation of the past rather than what actually happened, or even what's happening right now. Dang, I got to say that again. So this means we're often responding to our interpretation of the past rather than what actually happened, or even what's actually happening now. So, for example, a past betrayal can make us suspicious, even when there's no present reason to be. And this is why one of the things that I had to start doing, even when I was a younger fella, you know what I'm saying, is I had to start measuring the difference between fears that I had that were substantiated and fears that I had that were unsubstantiated or unsubstantial, one of those. But I had to walk through that, I remember one time when I was pastoring a little Baptist church as an atheist for a little brief period. I think we pastored that church for like three to 4 months. And I remember this moment where this young lady, well, not that young, but this lady had thought that one of the musicians was laughing at her. Now, even though almost everybody else in the room saw the situation and saw that the dude didn't even peep a smile, in her mind, there was nothing we could say to convince, like, oh no, he wasn't laughing at you. He wasn't even looking at you. He don't even know what's going on. But because she's had these past experiences of being picked on, of being called out, that has now overrode this experience. So she's not willing to engage the information of the moment. She's not willing to engage the data of the moment. She's not even willing to lean in to the counsel of others at that moment, because even though there's no reason for her to feel this way, at this moment, life has scarred her in such a way where I don't need a reason to feel safe. Oh, dang, that's good. I don't need a reason to protect myself. And let's be honest, who can argue with that? You see what I'm saying? And so a challenge here is, how do we ensure that past pain isn't distorting present reality? You know what I'm saying? How do we ensure that past pain isn't distorting present reality? The way we recall past hardships influences how we approach present challenges. So what if the way you're approaching present challenges is based on reconstructed memories? you know? And it's like, so how can we become aware of the stories we tell ourselves and reshape from them and reshape them for growth rather than limitation? Oh, man. So how do we become aware of the stories we tell ourselves and then reshape them for growth rather than limitations? I know when I was working in talent acquisition and training people how to, successfully get through their interviews, and then when I was training other people on how to ask for a promotion or how to get what they want in life, one of the little sayings that I started developing was stop using losing words. Stop using losing words. And almost any time that you hear me give some advice to somebody, it's advice that I've had to wrestle with myself first. Like I've had to wrestle with this shit. Like, Darante, you got to stop using losing words, right? And this is going to rub some of you the wrong way, right? So for example, someone comes in and they're in an interview and the question is, why should we hire you? You know what I'm saying? What makes you a good fit for this job? And the answer is typically something like, well, right now I'm struggling and I really need money and I really need to get on my feet. I said, oh, damn, that's a losing presentation. That's immediately a losing presentation. But let me tell you why you do that. Damn, let me look into the front camera for this. Let me tell you why people do that. People do that because we have been so traumatized by lack. We've been so traumatized by not having. We've been so traumatized by desperation that we feel like anytime that we don't have a little bit, that's all we could be defined by. That's what happens in a capitalistic structure. That's what happens there. You begin to feel that this is all that you can be defined by. So the thing is, you come into this room, you come into this meeting, and just because you're going through some stuff that don't nobody in that room even know about, you feel like you have to announce it. You feel like you got to wear this scarlet letter on your chest. I really, really need you. And let me tell you something. I don't care what you're going through in life. None of that stuff has changed your value. None of that stuff has changed who you are. None of that stuff has changed your capacity to bring to the table. We all are going to go through ups and downs in life. You're going to have some highs. You're going to have some lows. But I'm telling you now, you got to be careful not to let those lows define who you are. So even when you're having those low moments, you still walk in that room. Why should I hire you? Because I'm the best person for the gig. That's why. I have this amount of experience. I have this amount of quality. I've learned these lessons. Nothing you're going through financially, economically, or anything else changes what you have to offer. So I started saying we have to learn how to stop using those losing words. Even when you feel like you're losing, there's still a winner on the inside of you. And so I challenge you to constantly look for that perspective. When I wrote my first book, which was called Significant, I was wrestling that with myself. And then there were certain things, and I got to stand 10 toes down on this one. There were certain things I realized that I had become this person who had felt like I was dispensable and disposable for so long that I had begun to treat myself that way. So anytime life would throw a battle at me, I would feel like I wasn't qualified to get in the ring and learn something from that fight. And so many times we become so afraid of losing that we miss the opportunities to learn. So now check it out. Your boy is not afraid to lose in a fight. I will get in the ring no matter how big that mamma jamma is, because even if I lose, I learn. And the thing is, if I don't get in that fight, if I don't get in that ring, then I don't learn. I may not beat you the first time, but if I play around with you long enough, I will learn enough about your behind to take your ass down. See, you got, damn. I hope I drove the point home. I hope I drove the point home. Oh man, that's good. Okay, let me keep rolling. I saw some super chats. Because we're in a different system, I'm gonna hit the super chats at the end. Please remind me to hit the super chats at the end. So let's keep rolling. The brain shortcuts. Thank you all for giving. This is how you make this community work. This is how we change the world. This is how we keep moving forward. This is how we build progressive thinking, people-centric, and life-affirming communities where people can build relationships that matter. This is how we do it. Thank you, everybody. Whoever gives anything to the work we do, we appreciate you so much. All right, so are y'all ready? Let's lock and load. Let's talk about the brain shortcuts and talk about, are we seeing clearly? So we've talked about, oh, that's so good. Dang it, I wasn't going to read the chats, but I got to read this one. You don't fail into success. You must fail until success. That's right. I love that. So our brains, which we've kind of highlighted today, prioritize patterns and survival instincts over accuracy. And this is why, like, if you remember being, a child, or some of you may still be, grown, but if it's storming outside and the shadows of the leaves, are doing stuff, your brain is going to prioritize finding the quickest pattern that it can find in that imagery until it has enough information to determine what it is, and survival, right? And I have a video that I did last year, close to the beginning of last year, about talking about, in a very nonlinear way, about how humanity became superstitious. And ultimately, superstitions are really just a shortcut in our thinking. It's a shortcut in processing. It's a shortcut in engaging the world. And at one point in life, at one point in humanity's development, that was not only appropriate, but necessary. It was appropriate not to wait, or better yet, it was necessary not to wait until you understood exactly what was shaking the tree before you ran. It was necessary that you understood that if the tree is shaking, I don't care. You had to profile the fuck out of that tree. Shaking tree, bad juju, get the fuck away, right? But as we have continued to evolve socially, as we've continued to employ things like collective work and collaborative economics, as we begin to work together, if you go back through our series of conversations over the past year, you will begin to see how the more we begin to work together, what we end up giving ourselves as humanity is the gift of time. And so there was a time where we did not have time. You know what I'm saying? There was a time where you did not have the time to inspect that tree. There was a time that if you did not run, you did not live. If you did not live, well, that's the end of that story. There was a time that if you did not hunt buffalo, you did not eat. There was a time where you did not have time to think of sonnets and poems. There was a time where we didn't have time to just put a camera on a cat and make a whole bunch of money off of cat videos. These things evolve almost as emergent properties of our collective experience with each other. We've given each other the gift of time. You might as well go ahead and drop a "you're welcome" in the chat to somebody and just say, hey, that little time you got? You're welcome. That's something that we've given ourselves, which now allow us to think more. But our brains are still operating that in many ways. So again, you're looking at that tree and your brain is just like, oh, that's something scary on the outside. You might need to run. You know what I'm saying? Your brain is prioritizing the patterns in your survival over the accuracy, which means that we often perceive things in ways that feel true rather than ways that are true. Oh, okay. I got to say it again, right? That means that we often perceive things in ways that feel true rather than ways that are true. So I developed a little saying. This one rubs some people the wrong way, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I tell people emotions are for the experience. Data is for the decisions. It's very important that you know how you feel and why you feel, because when you compare that against the data, then you can know why you was wrong. Then you can know why that feeling was wrong. And I'm telling you, I want to say one of the biggest reasons this is important to me is because I find that as people deconvert from religious superstition, many of them reattach themselves to all types of other superstitions because they're still following that unction of whatever feels true instead of comparing it to what is true. And so I'm not telling anybody don't enjoy the emotions. No, the emotions are indeed for the experience. Man, love them. They're gonna tell you something about you. They're gonna tell you something about how you feel about that moment. They're gonna tell you how you feel about the person, the people, or whatever else is going on. But before you make the decision, make sure you're comparing what feels true against to what actually is true. Perhaps if more Americans would have done this in the previous several presidential elections, we wouldn't be in this situation today. All right. So examples of this is the brain sees faces in clouds, assumes danger where none exists, and often fills in memory gaps with fiction. And so a challenge here is how can we pause and question what we perceive before we act? You know, this is good stuff. All right. So now let's talk about our interactions with others, how relationships shape self-perception. The people around us, which we've kind of talked about this, act as mirrors, reflecting and reinforcing aspects of our identity. But what if those reflections are actually distorted? So last week, we introduced the concept of the looking glass self, this idea of seeing ourselves through others, which was proposed by sociologist Charles Cooley. And this theory suggests that our self-identity is often based on how we think others see us, you know? And I actually remember one time when I was a pastor, I did run a very similar experience or experiment with my own congregation, asking them how many of them would live, you know, in a tent in the woods. And, you know, most answers like, nah, you know what I'm saying? And what I wanted to solve for was the problem that the tent in the woods, or was the problem that other people knew that you were living in a tent in the woods, right? And so I asked, now, what if somebody was going to pay you $1 million to live in a tent in the woods for 3 months? And after you come out, you get $1 million. Would you do it then? And of course, the answer is, man, you see at least 75 to 80% of the hands go up. Some people like, I still don't like bugs, so I ain't doing nothing, whatever. But 80% of the folk, hands go up. Yes. Now, what that demonstrated to me is that then your issue then was not living in the woods. That wasn't the issue at all. Your issue was what other people would think about it, how it would be perceived. And so once you knew there would be some type of sociological dessert on the other side of that, then you knew that people who now see you living in the woods would understand why. You'd be able to give them a reasonable reason. Why are you living in the woods? Well, I'm going to get $1 million in 3 months. As opposed to, why am I living in the woods? Well, because my company did layoffs and I can't afford. You see that? So that, to me, that was just a great example of what Dr. Cooley is trying to highlight here. So if a person raised in a hypercritical environment may struggle with self-worth, even if their current reality no longer supports that belief. And so if you grew up in an environment where people were always telling you what was wrong with you, people were always expecting you to fail, people were always like, I just knew you was going to mess up. Yep, you always mess up. Who messed up? Oh, I knew it. You didn't even have to say nothing. I could have guessed. If you lived with that your entire life, lived under that type of umbrella, if you will, I guess that's a inverse umbrella. But if you live with that type of barrage of communication for a very long time, even when you're separated from that and your reality no longer supports that belief, you'll still find yourself trapped in it. And I've been there, had the accolades, had the accomplishments, doing well on the big stages, name and lights on the screens, all of that. But on the inside, still feeling like something is wrong because I still had so much about the way that I saw myself that I hadn't allowed myself to process. Another example is if we believe people see us as weak, we may often act defensively. If we think they see us as capable, we may step over into confidence. So a challenge that I like to highlight here is how do we separate our true self from our imagined reflection in others? You know, how do we separate our external perceptions from our internal truth? And this is something that I really try to spend a lot of time with myself. And one of those things, damn, okay, I'm off script for a minute. It is what it is. I think this might be helpful. One of those things that I personally do is I refuse to participate in stuff that doesn't make sense and stuff that doesn't benefit me. I just refuse now, you know. Growing up, I had to just kind of mask, pretend, jump in, and now I refuse. I refuse to participate. I refuse to participate in social niceties. You know what I'm saying? So not that I'm not nice. If you ever see me in public, you're like, oh, he's the nicest guy in the world and all that stuff. And I'm like, no, more like, you know, someone says, oh, I'd love you, but you do this too much. The polite thing to say, especially if you're a Southerner, is, oh, thank you. And just, you know, if you ain't got nothing nice to say, don't say nothing at all type of thing. But no, what I do, I refuse to participate and that political nicety or that social nicety, and I correct your ass for giving me your opinion on me. Like, I don't need that. And I say no, because that's the stuff we have to break away from. This is part of the reason why so many define ourselves through what other people think, because we have created like an incubation chamber, if you will, where that's now what is expected. You are expected every day to conform to the expectations of others. We even teach entrepreneurs that you're always going to have to do what other people want you to do. And I'm like, this isn't healthy, because why, on one hand, we're telling people conform to whatever they want, do whatever they want you to do. And on the other hand, we're telling people that this is how people are controlling you. They're controlling you because they're just telling you what to do, and then you're just doing it. So at one point, we have to refuse to participate. No, oh, damn. I refuse to participate in your imagery of me. Oh, I hope that's good for somebody. No, I refuse to participate in your imagery of me because it's futile. It has no utility. I've had people comment on what they think I should do with my beard, comment on what they think I should do with my glasses, on which way I should wear my hat. And I'm like, this isn't a fashion channel. I don't even know why this is where you're going, but we've become so accustomed to these things because in a very real way, we know we're that mirror for other people. And many times it's very difficult for us not to resist the urge to try to make other people in our image. And I'm telling you, stop doing that shit. Stop trying to make other people exist for you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he liked his white walls in his house. Maybe he won't. Maybe he wanted the stained glass windows in the kitchen. Stop being the weird person on House Hunters who is always surprised that a house that was built for somebody else doesn't match their expectations. It wasn't built for you. I'm constantly reminding people that that's the reason you don't see yourself in me, is because I'm not you. I wasn't built for you. I wasn't made for you. I am me all on my own, baby. I've had to handle these burdens by my damn self. I don't remember where you were. And I know y'all like, man, damn, he's harping on this because I want somebody to understand it. All right, is it good? Is it good? Okay. All right, let's go. The power of social influence. My notes got stuck. All right, so the beliefs and values of our families, our cultures and communities shape our worldviews, sometimes limiting our ability to think critically or see alternative perspectives. We inherit worldviews from family, religion, and society, but the question is, do they accurately represent reality? And that's really the leading question. That is the guiding question of this conversation, is what I'm seeing an accurate reflection of reality? That's the, like, if you're a person who's deconstructed, if you're a person who has walked away from the faith and you're trying to find a new life, if you know that you lived a major part of your life believing stuff that was not true, then why not adopt a posture that every day I'm trying to check to make sure that what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling is as accurate a representation of reality as possible for me right now. And so, again, religious upbringing influences many times our moral views even after deconstructing faith. And that's something that people have to wrestle with, just how much of your views about other people are still rooted in your religious ideologies. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing. It's getting to that place where we're getting rooted in reason. Another thing is many religious traditions define suffering as meaningful, which can shape how people perceive their hardships. Yeah, I need to be going through this. So how do we examine whether inherited beliefs serve clarity or distort it? What steps can we take to intentionally expand our perspectives and reshape outdated beliefs? And when we get here, we're talking about, this is good, the art of observation. And this is gaining clarity before taking action. For those of you that are just coming in, man, we got 50 folk in here. How beautiful. For those of you who are just coming in, this is about becoming the watcher in our own lives. And becoming the watcher doesn't mean passivity. It means pausing long enough to see clearly before we act. Now, like, I just want to speak to somebody for a moment and say, can you look back over some times in your life where you can now say beyond a shadow of a doubt that, oh man, that situation would have been entirely different if I would have paused long enough to see clearly before I made a decision, before I acted on what I felt, before I just responded with that knee-jerk reaction. If I would have paused long enough to see clearly, this is a skill. It's a muscle that needs to be developed. Becoming the watcher means questioning the narratives that shape us and actively choosing what we accept as truth. Seeing clearly means stepping outside of our automatic reactions and considering different angles. All right, stepping outside of those automatic knee-jerk reactions and considering different angles. Remembering that, I am no longer in the pre-civilization stages of humanity's development. We have societal structure. I have time to think about this. That's something you got to remind yourself on, because that primate brain will kick in to survival mode. This is why people use FOMO, because that primate brain kicks into survival mode. If I don't do this, I won't make it. If I won't do this, I will miss out. If I won't do this, somebody else will take it. That FOMO, that scarcity mindset, it starts working on you because that primate brain is kicking in not to miss an opportunity to survive. But now we've really got to start shifting ourselves to say, oh, let me make sure that I'm pausing to see. Let me make sure that I'm considering those different angles. So this is about noticing knee-jerk reactions in conversations and asking, why do I believe this? Anytime you have that knee-jerk reaction, something happens. I don't care what it is. I don't care how confident you are in it. I don't care how grounded, how rooted you feel. Like, no, I know this is right, this is right, this is right, this is right. If you're in a conversation, someone says something, you skip the point of processing what they say and have that knee-jerk reaction ready. You already got that gun in the chamber. It's fully loaded. As soon as they say it, you didn't give yourself time to pause and actually listen to what they said. You just responded. Notice that knee-jerk reaction immediately. Step back and ask yourself, even if you're asking within yourself, maybe you don't want to embarrass yourself like that. Maybe you want to ask yourself, ooh, why do I believe this? Why do I believe this? Just to make sure that I'm good. No, the answer might be absolutely valid, accurate. No, I believe this because of this, and this. And you know what? You're going to feel better from that exercise. And you're going to have the ability to communicate that better. And if you actually give yourself the space to do that, you notice the knee-jerk reaction, you pause to yourself and said, oh, why do I believe that? That gives you opportunity to think it through. It gives you some articulation. And so now to the person that you just gave this knee-jerk reaction to, you can say, you know what? I know that was pretty off the cuff, but let me explain why that's my reaction. Let me explain why I've attached myself to this particular ideology. Do you see how just thinking things through give you some more tools to work with? Another example is, instead of immediately labeling an experience as bad, step back and ask, what else could this possibly mean? I've almost become obsessive with variables. Because here's the thing, you typically see life through your lens, through your experience. And y'all know I always like to use this ideology of, I'm just the blind man touching, we're the blind man touching the elephant. And so the only way that I can get a better viewpoint of what's going on with everybody else, is to actually be willing to learn from them. But that also means that I have to be honest enough to say, no matter how much I understand about my interaction, no matter how much I understand about my view, I have to be willing to wrestle with at all times that my view is still limited, that my view doesn't include everybody's angles. So my knee-jerk reactions are definitely not going to be the ones that are taking into consideration the other possibilities. And so if I want to protect myself from the stagnation of social superstition, I always got to be willing to ask myself these questions. Why do I believe this? What else could this possibly mean? How else could this possibly be interpreted? Even if the way I interpreted it the first time was correct, just doing that thought experiment, doing that knowledge experiment is still going to lead to me getting a better understanding of how different variables impact experiences. And so a challenge here is, how often do we react without considering alternative perspectives? And this is a major one. How often do we do it? And it's a question, it's not a question I'm asking you. This is a question we have to ask ourselves. How often do we react knowing that you are the blind motherfucker touching the elephant with a whole bunch of other blind motherfuckers? How often do you react without considering that my perspective might not be omniscient? That my perspective might not see the whole picture, you know? And so a question is, what's one belief or assumption you hold that might need re-examining? And I want you to sit with that one for a minute. I almost don't want to move on. But I know, because this is a video, I can't let the time pass too much in silence, or somebody's going to comment who obviously has the power of fast forwarding and rewinding that, oh no, there was too much silence there. And you just sat through all of it, huh? Just sat there through the silence and just looked at that fast forward button, just looked at it. And you know, I'm just saying, but what's one belief, like not believing that you can't fast forward the video? I'm sorry, I'm not going to say it no more. What's one belief or assumption that you might hold that might need re-examining? And that's a real question. Like, we have to be willing to ask ourselves these questions in good faith. And what I find most times is we're willing to ask these questions to other people. Yeah, some of y'all, like, because look, I noticed this in church, and some of y'all ain't never been in church, but you still act just like church folks. You be sitting in here listening to the stuff that we're talking about, and you be like, man, this would be perfect for such and such. This would be just good. See, such and such need to lead us. Because we often, there it is, we are so aware of that social mirror type of syndrome. You know what I'm saying? That when we're listening to information, in most cases, we're not even looking for ways that we can use it for ourselves. So what's one belief or assumption you might hold is the question that might need some re-examining. I'd be curious to know. I'd be curious to know what's one belief or assumption you might hold that needs re-examining. All right? So now, we don't grow in isolation. So you've heard me talk, you've heard my wife talk about community as not just being something to get together to feel better. It's a tool for growth. We don't grow in isolation. The people we surround ourselves with either reinforce our old selves or they push us toward growth. That's just, man, that's a hard one to deal with some while. But again, the good news is you get to measure, you get to determine how you measure what growth is for your life and your success. But remember, whatever you determine is what you need to hold yourself accountable to. You know, it really can, even in this genre. That's right. Thank you, Ms. Non Sequitur. I love you. That is beautiful. So engaging with diverse perspectives forces us to challenge assumptions and refine our understanding of the world. And so a challenge is, how can we be intentional about surrounding ourselves with people who challenge and expand our thinking? And then just to add a little caveat to this, don't feel like you got to just give room to everything. Well, I'm a pragmatist, probably too much so. I'm probably a pragmatist. I probably err on this side. But my thing is, all things need to have some form of utility. For me, not for you. I'm not saying you got to live by my pathology, right? But all things need to have some type of utility for me. So when I'm thinking about how can I be intentional about surrounding myself with people who challenge and expand my thinking, I'm talking about in ways that are useful. I'm talking about in ways that can help me get to things in life that I want to do, help me reach these goals. That's what I'm looking for, because I often have to remind people that, like, you can use your life to get where you want to go. I'm gonna say that one more time. I'm gonna say that for those of you in the back. You can use your life to get where you want to go. What amazed me is deconverting from religious superstition and then finding out so many people who've never been a part of religious superstition have so many social superstitions that keep them from acting and expressing their agency and walking in their authenticity and taking control of their own autonomy. And I'm like, oh, no, bet. We about to raise people up. That's why one of the things we say is keep rising, because I'm just trying to remind people, no, the moment, listen, I think the moment we get this thing straight in our head, the moment we shift from believing that we were created in a state of perfection and then fell from that state of perfection, and things have been getting increasingly worse. The moment we shift from that understanding, come on now, somebody say it, superstition ain't the way. The moment we shift from that understanding over to know we are not a being that was created in perfection, that has fallen from grace, but instead we are an evolutionary scientific fucking miracle that has grown out of the depths of cosmic goo and has evolved at every fucking station at every station in life to become what we are today. And no, shit isn't perfect, but I don't even know what perfect is. What exactly is perfection? There you go. There is no end goal. All I know is that I can do more today than I could do yesterday, that I'm a little bit better today than I was yesterday, that I see a little clearer today than I did yesterday. So there is no perfection that I'm trying to attach myself to. There is no fall from grace for me. There is only a rise. Evolution is an elevator, and I am enjoying the ride. So as we say every day, every weekend at Bridge City, keep rising, man. Keep rising. Dang, this is good stuff. Oh my goodness, this is good. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. This is good. This is good. So, so emotional distance versus emotional numbness. Observation isn't detachment. It's understanding emotions without letting them hijack our judgment, right? So observation isn't detachment. And this is why I love mindfulness, man. And I do plan on doing a lot of work in the secular mindfulness space, in the secular mindfulness space. Observation isn't detachment. It's understanding emotions without letting them hijack our judgment. It's our anger, our fear, our excitement can cloud perception, but awareness allows us to feel emotions without being ruled by them. And so how do we allow emotions to inform us without distorting our vision? And so before we close, let's do a self-check. We've been asking questions. We've been doing little challenges. But again, here's one. Identify one area where you might not be seeing the full picture. And then ask, what assumptions am I making? Are they based on fact or interpretations? And then consider, if I viewed this from a completely different angle, how would it change? And the most important question, what would be the utility of that change? Choose one way this week to pause and observe before reacting. One thing that you could do to say, maybe let me give myself a little bit more time, Oh, man. And so another exercise is identify one belief about yourself or the world that you've carried for years. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Who or what reinforced it? Consider, how does this belief serve me? And what happens if I let it go? You can take one small action to challenge or reframe that belief this week, because that's the goal. It's just get a little bit better day by day to actually be intentional about something. Maybe you'll go this whole week and you don't have anything that you think is a false belief. That's possible. But maybe you do. Maybe you have a moment. Maybe it's something that happens at work and you're in a conversation with a coworker and you notice that that response was knee-jerk. And you give yourself an opportunity to say, I wonder, why do I believe that? And again, maybe as you process it, you think about it. And you say, this is actually right. And then that gives you more meat for the conversation. Or maybe as you process it and think about it, you realize like, oh no, I actually don't have a grounded reason in this yet. And then that just becomes a beautiful moment of learning and even liberation. That's right. I love it, Kyle. That's shadow work, man. So it's questions like, how does this belief serve me? And I like that. You know, I am definitely, I'm telling you, I'm a pragmatist, man. How does this belief serve me? What happens if I let it go? You know, let's drop some eye emojis and some reframe emojis in the chat if you're willing to take that challenge. If you're willing to take the challenge of not only becoming the watcher, but also being the person that's willing to reframe when you notice that, I zagged when I should have zigged. And honestly, I want us to work on, as our community is growing, I want us to work on creating that space, that safety, where people feel like they can do that, where people feel like, you know what, hey, I think I may have overreacted the last time I talked to you. And I allowed myself to think about it. And I've reframed that. And I now realize where I missed the bandwagon. We have to create space for people, where people can come to us with those type of conversations without feeling like they have to grovel for our forgiveness. You know, well, no, you really said that to me the wrong way, and I ain't really like that. So I know you figured out that you was wrong, but no, you got to pay. No, we have to create that safety. We have to remember that we all have those triggers. We all have those survival instincts. Many of us did not escape childhood without scars. Hell, some of us didn't escape college without scars. Some of us didn't escape the last job we worked without scars, you know? So, you know, just remember that. Always remember that the grace that you want other people to give you when you're having a bad day, when you're having an unreasonable moment, is the same grace that we should be giving others, because that's what empowers others to be a part of creating that safe space. When they know, if I can come to somebody and say I was wrong and nobody's going to beat me down, people are more comfortable saying, hey, I think I messed up. And that's where we need to be able to get to. We need to be able to just say, damn, I fucked up, laugh at it, and keep moving. We need to be able to say, you know what, I said this to you. I had that all wrong. This is how I should have said that. This is what I love. This is how we're going to get this right. That's where we have to get to. That's where we have to get to. So listen, my final thought, and this is beautiful, and I hope, I think I can see them. Yes. And then I'm going to hit these super chats at the end. This is beautiful. Are you watching the world with a clear lens or a fogged one? Becoming the watcher is about awareness before action, seeing reality before shaping it. And, you know, this also helps because, please understand, a lot of people are trying to take advantage of your triggers. A lot of people are trying to take advantage of the stuff that you're going to have emotional responses to. They're going to take advantage of those. Some of those are bad actors from other nations. Some of those are bad faith actors from this nation. Some of these are just people playing games. Some of these are just people playing politics. But when you see something that triggers you, remember that you're the watcher and you actually have the time. You have the time to get clarity before moving forward, seeing reality before playing a role and shaping it. Because a part of playing that role is the moment you start acting, you become a part of one of the many variables that's shaping the outcomes. I didn't expect to go there. That was off script, but damn, that was good. So what happens when we stop moving blindly and start truly seeing, or at least trying to. Like, reality is such a fun thing. It's such a funny thing, right? And so if you notice, I'm not trying to say that any of us are going to have a perfect vision. Again, I don't know what perfection is. But we can be improving the way we see things daily. So are you merely a passenger in your own life, or are you the one holding the map? Becoming the watcher is about active awareness, seeing the world, your identity, and your future with clarity and intention. Will you let the world shape you, or will you shape your world? Now listen, if you're enjoying the content and conversations featured on this channel, consider getting connected by joining our email list. We're shifting, we're working, we're getting more structured. As our community is growing rapidly, it's the easiest way to stay up to date and find opportunities to get involved. I realize we've grown so fast, we've grown unrealistically, that I realized that I was attaching valid, but unrealistic expectations. So I've been hyper-focusing on trying to get more volunteers, hyper-focusing on building out this strong infrastructure. And over the past week, we're pulling it back a little bit. We're pulling it back. So instead of trying to get you to sign up for a million different things, we're just going to have you sign up for the email list. We're going to keep you informed. And as that email list grows, we're going to start doing monthly events together, and we're going to be committed to building community. I kind of shouted out our core team earlier, but it's going to be great. Now, if you're interested in everything Darante LaMar, head over to dldd.us and get signed up for everything about us. If you're specifically interested, and you're also going to see stuff about my wife, Darnea. She's sitting beside me, by the way, but she's in here too. I think she's been in the chat. But that's you can go over to dldd.us and you can subscribe to our email list there. If you're specifically interested in being a part of our weekly community, featuring conversations like these online, dang it, I feel like I just missed something. Yeah. Oh yeah, like these online and where you are. So if you're interested in having conversations like these online and where you are, if you're interested in being a part of building that community or being a part of that community, helping out in that community, you can go to bridge.dldd.us/BC weekends. Don't worry, we're going to drop it in the chat. You don't have to remember that. We're going to drop it in the chat. And then even if you say, I don't want to go back to the chat, if you just go to the thumbnail of this video, that's the QR code in there, I think. And so you just, do the thing with the QR code. All right, so I think that's all I have for now. So like I said, I wanted to start because we get so many chats when we're going live. And today, as you see, I'm going to be hyper content focused over the next few weeks. So you're going to get more flows like this, even in our live sessions. But I do want to come back at the end of each of our sessions and acknowledge our super chats. And I still have to find a way to get those on screen. I know how to do it. I just haven't had the time to do it yet. So looking at our super chats, Errol Walker, man, thank you. $4.99, sending love to this great channel. I appreciate you. Thank you. And again, everybody, it's your support like this that helps us continue doing the work. And it not only does it help us continue doing the work, but it also motivates others. It encourages others. When other people see people giving and financially supporting this work, it triggers to other folk that this is a movement worth supporting. And so everybody who gives, no matter how large or small, we 100% thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Lord North Star, thank you. Oh man, this MF spitting, I love it, for $1.99. I appreciate you, man. I hope I wasn't literally spitting on you. I go, but no, I love it. I get it. Thank you all so much. Pat 907, $2. Hey, homie, I love your content and enjoy your shorts, man. Well, listen, thank you. This is the work that we love doing it, and it's because of your support that we can keep doing it. So thank you. I appreciate this. I promise you, we don't take this stuff for granted. Were you working off a book for this presentation? Great question. This is from David, and I may pronounce your name wrong, Jakaran. You let me know if I got it wrong. It could be Jai Karan. It could be anything that I don't know, but you let me know. But David, $2, were you working off of a book for this presentation? Great question. Every weekend for our Sunday sessions, I create a conversational guide for what we're talking through. We have a research assistant here. Her name is Alyssa. She goes out of her way to create a guide of resources for us backed by research that we're pulling from different sources, and she has that available for me. And so when I'm going to pull together our conversation guide, I'll typically go through that and look for stuff to kind of keep us on point. We have our conversations planned out, literally out through the year. So I already know, I think the last conversation series of 2025 is Flight Plan, which is going to be really good. I'm excited about that. And I think we come out of Flight Plan into something, it's like disaster protocol or something. And it's going to be fun. But anyway, and hell, we probably should have did that this year. So no, that's how we do that. And just an exciting thing, Dr. Troy is joining us on the content aspect, and so that'll bring another arm to that. But an exciting thing is that we are working, as we build out our team and get more structured, to start taking resources from these conversations and making them available to our community members, and then even people who are not within the community. So there'll be all types of stuff. We've already started making digital journals available, but we'll be aiming for some more substantive things as well. So again, thank you, David. I appreciate that. We got Pat 907 again. Thank you. $5. Man, that's beautiful. It says, I got to stop clicking this. It's making me, there we go. I love that you have preacher experience and you're helping folks unplug from the matrix. Great work, sir. Thank you, Pat, man. I do, I can't lie. I do think that it does serve me well in this arena. And I have made it a part of my mission to help other pastors who may be questioning their faith to not only deconvert and deconstruct, but to find a way to still be useful in this work, because we do need voices. We do need their energy. We do need their support. We need more people who are passionate, not just about truth. Yes, we need to be as passionate about truth as possible, but we do need more people who are passionate about people. And the more we can, I'm still in this from Chris, the more we can win that war of attrition, the more of those pastors we can get out of those pulpits who have experience building local communities, the more of an effective difference that we can make. I'm calling it Project Good Shepherd, but we're going to make that happen. And then our final super chat of the evening is from Lee B. Now that could be Lee Bay, and I think that's a super sticker. No, that's B. That's definitely B. It could be Bay. I hate when it does this. Stop doing that. Stop it. It's clicking it away. All right, I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop because that's my Nero Spicy. All right, now let's stop. But Lee B, thank you so much for the $3 super sticker. I appreciate you all. Again, anybody else, whether you're watching this now or later, it's not too late to support. There are plenty of ways you can financially support the work that we do at your own discretion, at your own disposal, in ways that make sense for you. You can sign up on Patreon, where we are getting really intentional about making sure that our Patreon get all of their stuff. And we have a lot of tiers for you. You're gonna see some of the people in those tiers when we run the credits. Also, of course, you can do super chats, super stickers. Did you know you can do super stickers even when we're not live? I didn't. Found out when I looked through the stuff. You can also purchase merch, which we're rolling out a new store. It'll be the same domain name, so you won't have to change anything, but these are easy ways. And then also, I have a Cash App, I have a PayPal, I have a Venmo, Bridge City has a PayPal. So however you want to support, we're making it easy for you. And obviously, we love to have it because we are literally out here doing the damn work. All right, so I love y'all. I think that's all I have for now. It's time for our closing. And so I'm going to go ahead, and I love you all. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Until next time, keep rising.